Hero perks are finally here, but what are the best players using?
Oh, it's a perk gap. Rad, we're a perk team.
He didn't need more bullets, but he's got them.
Exactly. That's an insane boop. That has to be because of the 15% perk. Now, certain creators have made perk tier lists, but the issue is that in some situations, C or D tier perks can be better than S or A tier perks. But what are those situations? Well, not to worry. I've developed a 3-step formula to help you decide when a certain perk is better than the others. But that's not all. Because of the very recent OWCS games, we'll see what perks the pros are using and why. The first base level factor in deciding what perk to pick is the map that you're on. Let's use Symmetra as a use case. For her minor perk, she can either do some portal type shit and TP 50% further, or she can gain 1 extra turret. The general consensus was that the turret perk would be way worse, and even Apply puts it in D tier.
The extra turret charge is obviously good. I'll put that D tier though.
But if you look at pro play, in the very first game, Taejong picks the D tier turret perk. But why? Well, look at the map we're on. Lijiang Tower, especially Control Center, is a very short sightlined, narrow and enclosed map. How are you going to use the extra range on your TP? Now, yes, Taejong does put down one of the worst symbols I've ever seen, before proceeding to die in also one of the worst ways I've ever seen. Seriously, his sim wall is so bad it makes Trump's wall look reasonable, but hopefully you understand the idea here. Again, we could change the map to Ivana. The TP perk makes way more sense here because the sightlines are long enough for you to flank around, contest Widow, and be an overall nuisance. Map doesn't just affect the range of your perks too though, it can also make some mobility perks more favourable. Soldier's 2 major perks are either a B-Tech form of nanomachines that increase your firing speed at the cost of healing,
Nanomachine, son.
or you could channel in your inner Keemstar and run 20% faster. On open, flank-heavy maps like New Queen Street, extra sprint speed lets you flank, escape and respawn way faster. But if you're on a map where you just can't use that extra mobility, like Circuit Royale, then the stim pack becomes way more useful. In terms of vertical mobility, the Zarya perk where you can self-jump higher literally won Shikigami a fight on Esperanza.
CJ's died on high ground. He jumped up onto the high ground. Actually, Zarya can do the low ground to high ground retakes. Zarya could really be redefined on some of these maps with this jump perk, with it being a minor perk as well.
Also keep in mind the openness of the map. You probably already know the gimmicky turret perk, where Torb can toss his turret on pretty much any surface. If the turret can be nestled in a really unpredictable position that can also see the entire point, then that turret perk becomes way more useful. Conversely, if you just don't know any map-specific turret spots, then picking that level 3 turret perk is just gonna be the more consistent option. How could we also forget the maps where you can get environmental kills too? Lucio's 2 minor perks are either extra boop range or extra ammo during your wall rides. On Lijiang Night Market, where you can get baited harder than Biba Doobie, you can probably guess which perk is going to be better. In this fight, TVNT, remembering that he's got no hands, gets melted by Taejong on the sim. TVNT obviously gets the mech for this, and it seems that this fight is in the bag for the underdog team, Vision Esports. But seemingly, out of nowhere, Funny Astro boops Taejong off the map, single-handedly swinging the momentum of this fight. Straight after, he also boops Simple off the map, and there's a good chance that neither of those kills would have been possible without the perk. Combine both the wall turret perk and the extra boop range, and you can see Team Rad Esports make the most out of it on the Poor Sanctum.
They lose 2 on the way through, but boop is good again! It's actually just a let world we live in.
Not to mention, the reason that I put this as the first level is because the map is the first thing you see when you load up a game. You can already start thinking about how the map affects your perks while you're waiting. So now that we understand how maps impact perks, let's talk about something even more important, your actual team comp. In other words, some perks might be better or worse when you're playing with or against certain comps. I think Rocket's Genji embodies this perfectly. For those who don't know, Genji's 2 minor perks are either healing during Dragon Blade or your double jump resets after Swift Strike. When Rocket was playing with the ball and Kiriko, he chose that double jump perk. However, when he was playing with the Ramatra and Ana, he went for the Dragon Blade perk instead. But why? Well, in the Ramatra Ana comp, Nanoblade means that instead of getting 33 healing per swing, you get almost 50 instead. Your blade does more damage, so you get more lifesteal. Conversely, in the Ball Kiriko comp, Ball's got a lot more individual sustain, so the Kiriko can spend more time pocketing Genji during Blade. Of course, your Ball can also give you some shields. In the game between Gen G and Team Peps, we see both Torbs choose different perks on the same map. So what's the reason this time? Well, Sauna is playing up against Hazard, and if you've watched my recent content, you'll know how good Torb is against him. The level 3 turret can effectively shred Hazard even more than what Torb can already do. Conversely, Ken is playing up against the D.Va. D.Va can just matrix your level 3 turret anyways, so putting it in quirky spots can become more useful. The clearest example out of all of these though has to be with Reaper. His major perks either make him heal like Wolverine, gaining 40% lifesteal when you exit Wraith, or your shotgun turns into a temporary sniper rifle, getting a long-range burst fire shot. Now, I don't actually know how many of you remember that Malga Brig Juno meta, but that Wraith perk would be insane. Reaper would legit be invincible during a Cage Blossom combo, so if you're playing Reaper against heavy brawl comps, then that's the perk to choose. Alternatively, if you're playing Reaper against snipers, or especially Pharah Echo, then that long-range fire perk becomes way more useful. Now here's a groundbreaking idea that I guarantee you've never heard any other creator talk about, which is counter-perking. Of course, this is inspired of counter-picking, but not only do I define this as picking perks that specifically counter the enemy comp, but also picking perks that counter enemy perks too. The Ramatra and Juno matchup makes this super evident. For Juno's major perks, I'll let Frogger take this one.
Bro, do you want crits or an extra jump? What kind of freaking choice is that?
In all seriousness though, the extra jump that Juno gets basically makes her unkillable in pro play. That is unless you're playing against Ramatra, whose major perks allow you to detonate your vortex out of the air, making it a lot more accurate to the trailer. This perk allows Satori to more easily deny the double jump from the Juno, meaning that even if her team loses the fight, she can reliably get trades onto the Juno. Of course, there's a lot more examples of just general counter-perking that I could go through. For instance, picking that double anti-nade whenever the enemy team play a Brawlio comp, but picking that groggy sleep darts whenever you're playing against a Diveyo comp. But there's one more secret factor to this formula, which I call fight winning immediacy. Might sound a bit fancy, but all this means is that if you pick a perk right there and then, will it lead to you winning a fight immediately after? Take this example from my own gameplay on Samoa. Usually in solo queue, I pick the shield perk because I don't want to rely on brain dead support players. But specifically because I have Barrage, I take that Barrage perk instead, which for next fight gets me 2 kills. To put it another way, this perk immediately gave me fight winning value. Now I've made a graphic to show examples of whether a perk is fight winning and whether it gets value immediately. For example, the Bastion Artillery perk is immediate value when you press Q, but it's not fight winning. In comparison, the Enhanced Duplication perk, which prolongs your duplicate by 3 seconds, can absolutely be fight winning, but the value isn't immediate. Your other perk, Friendly Imaging, can give you both fight winning and immediate value if you're playing with a Malga, for example. The best expression of this idea that we've seen is probably from Sojourn. In this case, Kai's got that overclock, as well as Twilight's Nano. This means that he can get fight winning immediate value by picking that overclock perk. And to nobody's surprise, he goes on a one-shot spree. In contrast, Zodial dies here despite having overclock, meaning he's not going to get immediate value because he's dead, and it might not be fight winning based on where the next point is, so he goes for the extra ammo. These 3 factors, map, composition, and fight winning immediacy, are absolutely necessary to consider, especially if you're struggling to know which perk to choose. There's also a bonus factor in whether you're playing in a team or not, but most of you watching this haven't got to worry about that. I'm probably going to be live on Twitch near to when this video is coming out right now, so if you do have questions about perks, check my stream down below. As always, share this video around if you know someone who's struggling understanding perks. And get my Spylo approved coaching too. Until next time.